Parts of the flute. The body parts. The head joint, the uppermost piece of the flute that contains the crown, cork, and embouchure plate. The crown, decorative cap that is screwed on top of the head joint onto the cork assembly. The cork assembly. The cork assembly is not normally seen as it is inside the head joint. It is also known as the head cork assembly or the cork carrier. The cork, which looks like the type that is used in wine bottles, is responsible for the flute's tuning. The threaded rod of the cork assembly is what the crown screws onto and helps keep it in place. Cork shrinks over time and has to be replaced. Embouchure plate, also called the lip plate. This piece is where the musician's lips rest upon while playing. Riser, the casting that rests on the head joint tube and supports the embouchure plate. Boxes, a round tube that is soldered to another tube. Boxes are the parts that tenons are inserted into. They are also called receivers. The flute has two boxes, one on the body tube and one on the foot joint tube. Head box, found on the body tube. Foot box, found on the foot joint tube. Here's another look at the boxes on a flute without the tenons inserted into them. Tenons, the parts that insert into boxes. The flute has two tenons, the head joint tenon and the body tube tenon. The body, also called the body tube. This is the longest part of a flute. It contains the rings, head joint box, tone holes, ribs, and post. Post, upright fixtures that holds the key shaft or pivot screw. The post is silver soldered to a rib, which is then soldered to the body. Posts also hold the round springs. Europeans refer to posts as pillars. Rib, the metal slab that posts are mounted onto. Ribs are soldered to the body of the flute. They give the mechanism and body structural integrity. Rod. The rod is threaded on one end and has a screwdriver slot on the opposite end. They are mounted through two posts. Hinges are usually mounted on rods. Rods have several alternate names: axle, shaft, long screw, shaft screw, and arbor. Tone holes. The holes along the tube of the flute, they shorten the sounding length when covered for different pitches. Foot joint, the shortest tube section of the flute. Foot joints hold 3 to 4 keys depending on whether they are a C or B foot joint. The foot joint carries a box of ring, tone holes, post, and ribs. Quiz time. The answers will follow the question slide. What is this part called? Embouchure plate. What is this part called? Tone holes. What is this part called? Head joint tenon. What is this part called? Rod. What is this part called? Crown. What is this part called? Riser. What is this part called? Post. What is this part called? Head joint. What is this part called? Foot box. What is this part called? Foot joint. What is this part called? Body. What is this part called? Cork assembly. What is this part called? Head box. What is this part called? The body tube tenon. What is this part called? Rib. Match the term to the definition. The terms are head joint, crown, cork assembly, embouchure plate, riser, head box, and foot box. Number 1, piece where the musician's lips rest on while playing. Number 2, decorative cap that is on top of the head joint and screwed into the cork assembly. Number 3, located on the foot joint tube, a box that the body tube tenon is inserted into. Number 4, casting that rests on the head joint tube and supports the embouchure plate. Number 5, the uppermost piece of the flute that contains the crown, the cork, and the embouchure plate. Number 6, located inside the head joint, it holds the cork and the threaded rod keeps the crown in place. Number 7, located on the body tube, it is a box that the head joint tenon is inserted into. Answers. Number 1, embouchure plate. Number 2, crown. Number 3, foot box. Number 4, riser. Number 5, head joint. Number 6, cork assembly. Number 7, head box. Match the term to the definition. Number 1, threaded on one end and have a screwdriver slot on the other. They are threaded between 2 posts and usually have hinges mounted on them. Number 2, the longest part of the flute that contains rings, head joint box, tone holes, ribs, and post. Number 3, metal slabs that are soldered to the body and which posts are attached to, responsible for structural integrity. Number 4, a round tube that is soldered to another tube and into which tenons are inserted into. Number 5, upright fixture that is soldered to the rib and which holds the key shaft, pivot, screw, or round spring. Number 6, holes along the tube of the flute that when covered shorten the sound for different pitches. Number 7, shortest section of the flute that holds a ring, box, tone hole, holes, a rib, and post. Number 8, the parts that insert into boxes. Answers: number 1 is rod, number 2 is body, number 3 is rib, number 4 boxes, number 5 post, number 6 tone holes, number 7 foot joint, number 8 tenons. Number 1, what are 2 alternate names for the cork assembly? Number 2, what is the cork responsible for? Number 3, why does the cork have to be replaced occasionally? Number 4, what is another name for the embouchure plate? Number 5, what is another name for boxes? Number 6, what is another name for the body? Number 7, what is the European name for post? Number 1, head cork assembly, cork carrier. Number 2, tuning. Number 3, it shrinks over time. Number 4, lip plate. Number 5, receivers. Number 6, body tube. Number 7, pillars. Number 1, what are 5 alternate names for rods? Number 2, foot joint holds 3 to 4 keys depending on what? Number 1, axle, shaft, pivot screw, long screw, arbor. Number 2, whether they are a C foot joint or a B foot joint.